When you raise your hands in dua, do you realize what you're doing? You're not just saying words into the airs. You're engaging in a sacred act, one of the highest forms of worship. But here's the truth most people miss: making dua is not a desperate last-minute option after everything else has failed. It's not the final thing to try when all your plans crumble. No, dua is the privilege you've been given from the very beginning. It is the most powerful access point between you and the Creator of the universe. And if you knew what truly happens when you raise your hands sincerely, you'd never underestimate it again. Imagine being invited to speak directly to the CEO of a major company, unfiltered, one-on-one. No secretaries, no waiting list, no screening process. Just you and the one who controls the resources. You'd prepare, you'd make the most of it. But that's just a human comparison. What about when you get to speak to the one who owns every single thing seen and unseen? The one who doesn't need to check his calendar. The one who listens to every language, every accent, every whisper simultaneously. You've been given access to that king every single day. That's not just power. That's a gift. Many people only start to make dua when they're on their knees, when the situation is out of their hands, when no one is helping, when they feel forgotten by the world. Only then do they remember God. But that's not how the spiritually awake operate. The believers who truly understand the secret of dua start with it. They open their day with it. They go into every opportunity, every risk, every worry, armed with it. Dua isn't something they resort to. It's the very engine that drives their journey. Think of Prophet Yunus in the belly of the whale. He didn't call out only when things went dark. He was already someone who remembered his Lord. And because of that prior relationship, his voice was recognized even from the depths of the ocean. When he called out, his dua was answered. Not because it was desperate, but because it came from someone who had been consistently close. This is a secret most overlook. When you make dua regularly, in ease before hardship, in gratitude before desperation, it builds a bond. You're no longer a stranger to the doors of the heavens. You're a familiar voice. Some people think they're not worthy to make dua. Why would God listen to me? I've sinned too much. I'm not consistent. But that's exactly what Shaitan wants you to believe. To keep you silent, disconnected, distant. In truth, the fact that your heart even wants to make dua is already a sign of mercy reaching you. That pull in your heart, that's divine permission. It's your chance to come back, to speak up, to be heard. And let's be clear, your dua doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need flowery language or exact memorization. What matters is presence. When you speak to Allah, be present. Talk like a servant to his master. Talk like a child to their loving parent. Raw, honest, real. You don't have to filter your emotions or phrase your pain in a poetic way. If your chest hurts, say it. If your heart is broken, show it. If you don't even know what to say, cry it out. Because he understands what you don't even know how to express. The language of the heart is louder than the tongue. Look at how people behave with each other. When they have influence, they want others to beg them. They want conditions, favors in return. They want to be chaste. But Allah is not like that. He doesn't grow tired of your requests. He doesn't get annoyed when you repeat the same thing over and over. In fact, the more you ask, the more he loves you. He never says you again. He says, my servant is still hopeful in me. You're never a burden when you speak to him. That's why you need to remove the mindset that says, let me try everything else first, and then I'll make dua. Flip that. Make dua your first step. Make it your default. Whether you're trying to heal, succeed, overcome, grow or survive, begin with raising your hands. That's how you center your soul before the chaos begins. That's how you align your action with barakah. That's how you protect your journey from invisible obstacles you don't even see coming. You've been given this weapon, this tool, this divine rope. Use it before you're desperate. Use it before you think you need it. Use it even when you feel like things are going well, because you never know what's being held back from your path just because you stayed connected to your Lord. Maybe the harm never arrived because of that one dua you whispered during sujood. Maybe the door opened easily because of the prayer you made 3 months ago, crying in your car. You don't always get to see the direct cause-effect chain, but believe nothing goes unanswered. And finally understand this: if you truly trusted what dua you can do, you'd never trade it for anything. You wouldn't rely on people, on schemes, on shortcuts. You'd rely first and foremost on the one who created the people and who controls the outcomes. Your dua is your power. It's your lifeline. It's your secret weapon. Don't treat it like an afterthought. Use it like the treasure it is. Because the day you understand the privilege of speaking to your Lord is the day everything changes. You don't just live in this world, you start moving through it with divine support. And with that, nothing can stand in your way. When people think of dua, they often focus on the words. They stress about saying the right phrases, using the right invocations, memorizing the most powerful supplications. But here's the secret that separates answered duas from those that go unnoticed. It's not about the words coming from your tongue. It's about the state of your heart. Your heart is the core transmitter. It's the soul's voice, louder than anything your lips can articulate. You could speak the most beautiful Arabic, quote the most powerful duas from the Sunnah, but if your heart is absent, if it's dry, if it's distracted or robotic, then that dua is hollow. But if you cry a single broken sentence from a heart drowning in sincerity, that can reach the heavens in ways no rehearsed phrase ever could. There's something profound about vulnerability. When a person stands before Allah, stripped of all their masks, broken, honest, raw, that's when the doors start to shake. The angels rush to carry that supplication, because it's not fake, it's not an act, it's not a routine recital, it's real, and real connects. Think about how you feel when someone speaks to you from their heart. Even if they stutter, even if their words are clumsy, you feel it. It moves you. Now imagine the most merciful, who knows what's in your chest before you even open your mouth. When your heart trembles, it's more powerful than your tongue moving 1,000 times. That's why when you make dua, don't focus on being impressive. Focus on being present. Be aware of who you're talking to. This isn't a monologue. This isn't a checklist. You're not just saying, "Oh Allah, give me this, give me that, help me with this." You're standing in front of the one who has the power to say be, and it is. You're speaking to the one who cured the sick without medicine, who split the sea without an army, who brought rain from a sky that hadn't wept in years. How can you talk casually, absent-mindedly, while scrolling through your phone or rushing through words with no depth? The companions of the Prophet understood this. They weren't always people of deep words, but they were people of deep hearts. When they made dua, they meant every word. They lived what they asked for. They didn't just say "forgive me" while continuing the same sins. They said it with tears, with regret, with a yearning to change. That's what gives dua its weight. Not the sound but the soul behind it. You could be sitting in a crowd, and silently in your heart, you say, "Ya Allah, I need you, help me." And that may be the most powerful prayer of your life. No one around you heard it. It didn't echo through the room, but it echoed through the skies. Because it was sincere. It came from pain. It came from need. And it came with the belief that only He can help. Many people underestimate their own duas. They think "I'm not righteous enough," or "I don't know how to pray properly." But that's a trick of the shaitan. The enemy wants to silence your dua by making you feel unworthy. But the opposite is true. Your sin doesn't disqualify you from making dua. It makes your dua more important. The moment you turn back, even with a single tear, you've stepped onto the road of return. Allah doesn't ask for perfection when you make dua. He asks for presence. He asks for humility. He asks for hope. When your heart is alive in dua, it changes how you ask. You don't just throw a list of demands. You have a conversation. You praise him. You thank him. You admit your weakness. You cry over your mistakes. And then you ask, not with entitlement, but with desperation, with full reliance, with the knowledge that if he doesn't give it to you, no one else can. And even if he delays it, there's a wisdom behind the wait. There's another side to this that people forget. Sometimes your heart is hurting so much that you can't even find the words. You sit in silence, with tears rolling down your face, unable to even form a sentence. That silence, when filled with sincerity, is a dua more powerful than 1,000 memorized invocations, because it's all heart, no filter, just the soul bleeding in the presence of its Lord. That's when mercy descends. That's when Allah sends ease. But in the same way, if you say the most beautiful du'as without any feeling, just mouthing off words, while thinking about your chores, your errands, your phone, it loses its power. You're speaking, but you're not connecting. Your lips are moving, but your heart is somewhere else. That's why so many people say, I make du'a, but I don't feel anything, because it's become routine. It's lost its soul. Reignite the heart, and the dua comes alive. So how do you get your heart to be present in dua? It starts with remembering who you are speaking to. It starts with preparing yourself, even if just for a few moments. Clear your mind, slow down, sit in silence, think about what you're asking, think about your needs, think about your blessings, then begin. Even if you don't know many duas, speak from your heart. Use your language. Use your emotions. The one who understands every language also understands the silence between your words. When you make dua with your heart, you leave the gathering changed. You feel lighter. You feel heard, even if the answer hasn't arrived yet. Because part of the magic of dua isn't just the result. It's the process. It's the healing you feel when you offload your pain to the one who can carry it. It's the comfort of knowing you're not alone. It's the realization that even when the world turns its back, there's one who never does. So never again underestimate your dua. Because you think your words aren't good enough, focus on your heart. Because it's not your vocabulary that moves the heavens. It's your sincerity. There are keys to unlocking the doors of the heavens, and timing is one of them. Just like there are seasons in nature, there are divine moments, golden spiritual timings, when your dua holds extra weight, when the skies open wider, and mercy descends faster. But even beyond timing, there's something more powerful: persistence, consistency in dua, a refusal to give up, an insistence that doesn't fade with time. That's the secret of those whose prayers are answered. The person who keeps knocking on the door of mercy will never be turned away empty-handed. When you make dua, it's not a one-time action. It's not a slot machine where you pull the lever once and wait to see what drops. It's a journey, a form of worship, a test of your sincerity. The one who makes dua once and walks away hasn't truly tasted the sweetness of turning to Allah. But the one who returns again and again, night after night, tear after tear, that is the one whose name is whispered among the angels, whose voice becomes familiar in the heavens, and whose supplication becomes impossible to ignore. Think about it like this. If you love someone deeply, and they ask you once for help and never return, what would you think? But if they came to you with desperation, repeatedly, sincerely, over and over, your heart would soften. Now imagine the one whose mercy is greater than a mother's mercy. How can he ignore the cries of a servant who never gives up? He won't. He promises not to. Now look at the timings he gave us. These aren't just arbitrary suggestions. These are divine opportunities. Moments when the veil between the servant and the Lord is thinner. In the last third of the night, when the world sleeps and your soul is bare, he descends, not physically, but in a way that suits his majesty, and asks, "Who is calling upon me that I may answer him? Who is asking of me that I may give him? Who is seeking my forgiveness that I may forgive him?" This is not poetry. This is a promise. And yet so many sleep through it, unaware that the gates of their solutions were wide open while they were turning on their sides. Another powerful moment is between the Adhan and the Iqamah.
When the call to prayer echoes and the world pauses, that window is sacred. The Prophet said that dua made in that moment is not rejected. Yet how many of us waste it? We scroll, we chat, we rush. But those few minutes could be the ones that change your life. The same goes for sujood, your closest position to Allah. You're not just bowing your head, you're surrendering your pride, your ego, your pain. That is when you speak from the heart, when you cry out for what only He can give. And there in that humble posture, duas rise higher than the tallest mountain. But let's not forget the strength and persistence. There's a reason why the most beloved people to Allah were tested the most, not because He forgot them, but because He loved to hear their voices. Look at Prophet Zakaria. He made dua for a child into old age, when it seemed biologically impossible. But he kept asking, whispering, hoping, and Allah gave him Yahya, not just a son, but one who was pure, righteous and unique. What would have happened if Zakaria gave up on the 10th try, or the 100th, or the 1000th? He didn't. And that's the point. Never give up. Many people stop making dua because they don't see results. They think, what's the point? I've asked 100 times, and nothing changed. But what they don't realize is that every single sincere dua is recorded. It's either answered directly, delayed for a better time, used to repel harm, or saved as reward in the hereafter. Not a single one is wasted. You don't lose by asking. You only lose when you stop asking. Some prayers are answered instantly, others take time, and the delay is never a punishment. It's either a lesson, a protection or a preparation. Maybe you're asking for something you're not ready for. Maybe it would have destroyed you if it came too soon. Maybe it's coming in a form better than you imagined. But Allah is never ignoring you. Sometimes the wait is the answer. So if you want your du'as accepted, don't just focus on timing. Master the art of returning, of never losing hope, of knowing that if you knock long enough, the door will open. This isn't about desperation alone. It's about showing Allah that you trust Him, that you know He's listening, that even when life seems silent, you believe His plan is unfolding. You see, the people who get their du'as answered aren't always the most eloquent, or the most religious, or the most knowledgeable. They're the ones who believe with unshakable certainty. They ask with the heart of a child, pure, vulnerable, hopeful. And they don't walk away when the answer doesn't come wrapped in their timeline. They stay, they wait, they trust. That's what you need. Patience, consistency, awareness of timing, and most of all, hope. The kind of hope that refuses to die. The kind of faith that keeps praying even when the heart is tired. That wakes up for Taji, even when the eyes are heavy. That raises its hands between Adhan and Iqamah, with the same request day after day, without giving up. Every dua you make is a brick. Every tear you shed is cement. Every night you wake up and whisper His name is a stroke of divine architecture. You're building something, and one day when it's complete, it will manifest in a way that leaves you in awe. So never stop knocking, never stop asking, and never doubt that the one who told you to call upon Him is closer to you than your jugular vein. He heard you the first time, He heard you the 100th, and He will never let your dua go to waste. You can't just ask for something and do nothing. That's not how dua works. You can't raise your hands, beg for success, then sit back and expect miracles while making no effort to change, move or act. Dua is not an excuse to be passive. It's a call to action. You ask, and then you strive. You beg, and then you hustle. You cry out to the Creator, and then you do everything in your power, through every means He's provided, to chase what you've asked for. That's the balance people forget. Real dua is not just a spiritual transaction. It's a full body submission, with the heart making the call and the limbs responding with action. People want results, but they don't want to move. They want provision, but they don't want to work. They want healing, but they keep feeding their illness. They want peace, but they live in chaos. It doesn't work like that. Allah can do anything. He can flip your entire life with one word. Be. But He also expects you to prove that you want it. He expects you to act, to push, to walk your talk. If your dua is real, your behavior will reflect it. You won't just say, "Oh Allah, help me succeed," while wasting your time, feeding your distractions, surrounding yourself with laziness. That's a contradiction. Your tongue says you want success, but your actions say you don't care. Look at how the prophets made dua. They didn't just ask, they acted. Prophet Moses made dua when he fled Egypt, asking for safety, for guidance, for help. But he didn't just sit under a tree waiting for angels to come down. He kept walking. He searched for a job. He served others. He took responsibility. That's what real dua looks like. You ask from the depths of your soul, and then you move like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your actions are proof of your sincerity. If someone asked you for help but sat there doing nothing, how seriously would you take them? If a student begged their teacher to pass the exam but never studied, never opened a book, never made the effort, would that plea hold any value? Of course not. So why do people think Allah will respond to requests that come from lazy, careless hearts? Real dua is fueled by sincerity. And sincerity doesn't stop at the tongue. It's a commitment that shows in every step you take after the prayer. You see, when you make dua for risk provision, that's good. But then you better get up early, work smart, seek halal income, stay away from shortcuts. When you make dua for healing, that's beautiful. But then you must take care of your body. Remove what's harming it. Visit doctors. Trust the process. When you make dua for guidance, you must open the Quran. Seek good company. Stay away from what clouds your mind and heart. That's how you prove to Allah that you're serious. That's when dua becomes powerful. When it's backed by effort. Even in the story of Mary, when she was in labor under the palm tree, struggling with pain and loneliness, she cried out to her Lord. But what did Allah command her to do? Shake the trunk of the palm tree. Think about that. A weak woman, in labor, alone, under a tree. What strength could she possibly have to shake it? But Allah didn't say just lie there. He said shake it, move, do your part, and then the dates will fall. You do the shaking, He'll do the blessing. That's the formula. Action meets divine assistance. Some people think they're not seeing results because Allah isn't listening. But often the issue isn't the listening, it's the lack of action. You're praying for something while actively walking in the opposite direction. You're asking for purity while staying in sin. You're asking for calmness while chasing drama. You're asking for clarity while filling your mind with noise. How can you expect light to enter a room that you keep covering in darkness? Dua without action is like planting seeds and never watering them. You can hope, you can wait, but you'll never see growth unless you get up and do your part. You need to be relentless. You need to move with the certainty that your prayer has been heard. And now it's your turn to show up, to respond, to become the kind of person who deserves that answered prayer. And remember, your effort doesn't make the result happen. Allah does. But your effort is a sign of your truth. It's a reflection of your belief that He will respond. That's what matters. That's why the most powerful people in history weren't just dua makers. They were dua makers and action takers. They prayed like everything depended on Allah, and worked like everything depended on them. That's the balance. That's the secret. You also need to remove any blocks between you and the acceptance of dua. Sincerity isn't just about effort. It's about purity. You can't pray for halal income while stealing. You can't pray for love while hurting people. You can't pray for peace while spreading harm. If you want the heavens to open, clean your intentions. Remove the dirt. Be real. Be honest. You're not hiding from anyone. The one you're asking sees the heart. He knows the truth you're trying to hide. When your dua is clean, your heart is sincere, and your body is working toward your request, that's when you start to see the miracles. Maybe not instantly, maybe not in the way you imagine, but the help will come, because now you've done your part. And Allah never lets the efforts of the sincere go to waste. So the next time you raise your hands and ask with full heart, but then back it with full effort. You're not powerless. You've been given the tools. You've been given time, energy, skill, wisdom and dua. Use them all. Don't rely on one and neglect the others. Because real tawakkul reliance isn't sitting back and hoping. It's moving forward, with faith. It's acting while trusting. It's doing your best, and knowing that He will take care of the rest.